The first movie I'll talk about here is The Son. It's a moving, touching portrait of a father dealing with a new life after a failed marriage. Starring Vanessa Kirby, Hugh Jackman, Laura Dern, and Zen McGrath himself as the struggling child that's struggling with a broken home. It's a very harrowing depiction of depression and suicide. And it's all wrapped up in a family drama, as I spoke about with the failed marriage. It's going to hit close to home for quite a few people. It is a dramatization from Florian Zeller. This is his second film, his first being The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins as well. Um, but to really nail it all down, Hugh Jackman and Laura Dern anchor as struggling, lost parents in the void of helplessness and what they can possibly do for their son, who is struggling, obviously, with his mental health. And they give such authentic performance. They really encapsulate how families would interact for the most part. I will say that there are a lot of times here where they're going to do some things here or there that seem very outside the norm, and of course it's probably happened before for some, but it just felt a little fake to a certain extent. But I'll touch more on that later. But this film doesn't end up as impactful as The Father for me. Which was the depiction of dementia and Alzheimer's, and how they see themselves, the patient, and how the family sees it. Now that hits closer to home for me than this film itself, but it still packs a very unforgettable punch. And the ending is something that is just going to take your breath away and not leave your head for days, and not in the best way. Maybe not the way you expect either. So definitely there's plenty open for interpretation there. For those of you that have had to deal with suicide, especially very close to you and in your family, this is going to be even more difficult. Obviously, it's a brutally difficult subject matter in your life as it is, but it's just going to hit so close to home for some. And there's absolutely a point to be had for the film to deal with how parents are lost and how they're struggling, and what to do and what not to do. And, do you put your kid in therapy even though it's 100% against their wishes? What do you do when you are the guardian? And it really it'll tear at your heartstrings with that. But at the end of the day, it just seems like it's trying to be miserable for the sake of being miserable. And I don't think it's going to connect as well for some, because it is very depressing and heartbreaking. And unfortunately, that's not what people want to see at the theaters. So for me, this gets a 3.5 out of 5. I really do appreciate the work of Hugh Jackman, Vanessa Kirby, Laura Dern, Zen McGrath, Anthony Hopkins. Would have loved to see more of you. But at the end of the day, this is just a very heart wrenching trip to the box office, and something that I think deserves to be seen and may serve as a public service announcement in the future. But it just seemed too forced at times, and it's something that's going to really hit close to home for a lot of people. The second film we're going to talk about here is Living. Now, some of you may be wondering what that is. Some of you may have heard about it already. Well, it's been out for a little while. Premiered at Sundance last year, but it's essentially a British remake of Akira Kurosawa's 1952 film Ukuru, and it follows pretty much the same story. Very very little changes here, but that isn't as bad as you think. It follows a bureaucrat, this time in London, as he's living his boorish life at the public works office, until one day he's told that he has terminal cancer and has 6 months to live. It's just absolutely powered by Bill Nighy's profound, just authentic performance. He commands the screen. He's charming. He's witty, but there's such a harsh realism involved in his performance. Such a, how do you say, just he channels such an authenticity that really is astounding. And he is absolutely deserving of all this acclaim he's received so far for Best Actor nominations. I very much believe there will be one coming next week for the Academy Awards as well. But much as Kurosawa's original film, this film focuses on life and its brevity, and not just not just how we should treat one's life, but the reminder that the effect that we have on other people's lives. How we go through our daily business, and how he just is able to inspire people without trying to be inspirational. It's a harsh reminder, but a very necessary reminder that we have such an effect on others that if we do what we are supposed to do or meant to do, it will rub off on others. It is very much a British film. Its pacing is slow. As I said, it's charming and witty, of course, as you'd expect. But it really kind of feels like a fairy tale at times. Obviously, it's dealing with difficult subject matter with terminal cancer and death and setting one's affairs in order. But it really just it seems like a reminder of a world from long ago where he is a gentleman and he treats everyone with kindness and doesn't necessarily receive it in return, and is very mysterious but not in an off-putting way. So it really does rest on the shoulders of Bill Nighy, and I really do think it's one of his career bests and something that I will forever now associate with his name whenever I hear it. I've loved him in other things, but this is just something. The role of Mr. Williams is something he's going to be remembered for. For me, it gets a 4 out of 5. I think it does carry on a little too long. However, at the same time, there is a story to tell. Akira Kurosawa's 1952 classic is the better film. There's no question. There's no touching it. This doesn't serve to replace that. It serves as almost as an alternate option for those that want to see in a different perspective. Not much changes. It is very much the same. How would I handle my life? How would one handle their life if you knew it was ending very soon? And in ways that we may think we may do things, we may want to live it up, or sometimes we don't know how to do what we want to do, so we need the help of others, and that's what this film touches on. So I really do hope people give it a go. And that's all we have for this week. Thank you very much.